As a disclaimer, this video is not sponsored. I just heard about this plugin from Venus Theory, decided I would look into it, and realized, holy crap, this is great. Yeah, this isn't a super in-depth review. This is just kind of a first look. I've been messing with this for a few hours. Here are my thoughts. But in short, this is a very good plugin. So if you want a more in-depth kind of like tutorial/review thing, leave a comment, I guess. Yeah, so on with the content. Hey y'all, what's up? It's Alk. I just finished streaming a few minutes ago, at the time of recording anyway, sort of my first look at the new plugin from UVI, the developers of the plugin, of the synth plugin Falcon. If you're not familiar with Falcon, it's a very powerful synthesizer workstation thing. It's kind of a DAW as a single plugin. It's bizarre, but monstrously powerful. I don't own it because it's expensive, but it exists, and I have played with it, and it is very cool. My laptop would probably die trying to run it, but cost of power, I guess. Anyway, they just came out with a new EQ plugin / creative filter plugin called Shade, and it is probably my favorite effect plugin, period. Full stop, just, I love it. It's so good. And I figured, hey, why not, talk about it? So here we are. In Ableton. I've got a cymatics drum loop for just, for something. I'm not going to play the whole thing by default because of copyright crap. I don't want to make Steven Cymatics unfollow me on Instagram. Okay, so let's talk about Shade. So Shade is a very powerful plugin. All right, you can use it as a normal EQ. Functionally, it's an EQ that's on par with, if not better than, FabFilter's Pro Q, right? It is extremely digital sounding. Yeah, so, but if you want a digital like EQ that's just super, super clean, this is your guy. Like it's just clean. It doesn't like add any saturation. It doesn't add any harmonics. It's also incredibly intuitive, right? Like anything that you'd expect it to do, it just generally does, right? If you want we'll talk about the bottom section in a minute. That's modulators. It's amazing. But anything you'd expect it to do, it just kind of does. You click this, it lets you pick a filter. You click on the filter, it does it. This workflow is damn near perfect. All right. You click a point, it adds a filter. Depending on where you click, it changes the filter. You hold Control or Command on Mac, it lets you change the resonance. Alt turns things off and on, or bypasses them. Like alt-click. You double-click, it removes it, It's very intuitive, You pick it up, you can immediately figure it out. It's an EQ. It's a very nice EQ. And I don't know how many bands you're allowed to have. Oh yeah, you don't have to click on the line. If you double click somewhere, it adds it. If you click on the line, it adds it. Yeah, you can do a lot of, I don't know how many you're allowed to use. But yeah, and then delete. It does let you select multiple, just like let me add a low pass and then just duplicate it a bunch. All right, you hold Control, it lets you duplicate things. You hold Shift, it lets you select multiple and duplicate things. You can't Control A your filters, but that's fine. You also can't delete multiple at the same time because it doesn't use the delete key to do it. It uses a double click, and if you double click, it changes. If you single click, even if it's in part of a double click, it changes the selection. It's weird, but it makes sense. It's just, I guess, a limitation of how computers work, honestly, like how operating systems work. But yeah, so you've got your basic filters, you've got different types of everything. The notches are pretty nice. Like they just work. Yeah, You can notch out the entire frequency spectrum. I believe I don't know how high the frequency limit on ProQ is, but Shade is at least comparable, if not better. It can go up to 30,000 hertz, which is 10,000 above the human hearing limit. So, if for whatever reason you've got some like distortion that's bringing stuff up and it's causing some like overhead damage or whatever, or like bumping the overhead, you can just like, cut it out. That's it for the basic EQ functions. Now we're going to go on to the creative filters. So that's your phasers, your combs, your flangers. So yeah, the phasers are really cool. I'm actually going to open up another project. Okay, so we've got the project open. Shut up, Windows. Okay, so I've got the project open, and this is actually what I was using on stream. I made this on stream. These are like some techno-y noises that I made, so let's turn this off. Most of the sound generation in this, we'll start with this one because it's like just my favorite. It sounds cool. It's nice. It's not horribly like cacophonic. It's just a sound. So this is what it sounds like without shade. It's just a annoying kind of distorted thing. So if I turn on shade, as you can see, this is a pretty complicated patch. It's not like 4 million filters, but it's like modulating. And we'll talk about that. And so it makes that sound that you heard already turn into this. Alright, so it's a very neat, like just very fun sound. And it's completely pretty much generated by shade, which is insane because this is a filter plugin. It's just monstrously powerful. So what I've got here is a phaser filter, and I'm actually going to turn the rest of these off. So again, it's alt-click to turn things off, and then for the modulators, you just click on the little power button. So this has all of the modulators from Falcon just built in. Like it has the whole modulation system, which is nice. So it's very intuitive. It's very similar to Phase Plant or Serum or Vital or even Massive. Actually, it's closest to Massive, but yeah. I'll talk about the modulators real quick before I get into the actual sound. So the modulators, you have a bunch of different types. You've got an envelope, which is an envelope. You got a figure, which is this thing. So it lets you do this. It's basically an automatic like symmetrical XY pad. You got a random, which just oscillates left and right at random, very gradually. It's like a Perlin noise generator. You can't beat sync it, which is annoying. And you got an LFO, which is an LFO, obviously. You've got a follower, which is an envelope follower, which lets you do sidechain things and MIDI controlled things. So I actually have like a sidechain like preset basically over here. All this is doing is, well, that's not the one. Over here, all this does is control a tilt from, but it's like sidechained to the kick. This isn't a standard way of doing it, but it does sound really good. It sounds way better than a regular sidechain compressor. I don't know why, it just does. You do have a lot of fine control, and you can also do it with like any filter basically, because it takes whatever you have this set up for. Like if you have it set for the direct input, it does that. If you want it to trigger based on a sidechain, it'll do that. Yeah. So LFOs, they're LFOs. Woohoo. So the top bar of this, it'll have some different options. It'll let you select presets if there are presets for it, like the MSEG or the sequencer / like segmented modulator, I guess. It's Seerum's LFO basically, or I guess Falcon's LFO, but like the main custom LFO. And you can gridlock it. You can select things. It's a very good thing. You can, as you can see, you can like stretch it out, so you have more of the workspace available. There's a little zoom thingy, or a little scroll bar at the bottom. It's a little bit annoying, but you can also hold, I guess, shift. Yeah, you can hold shift to scroll left and right, and just scroll to zoom in and out. So it's nice. So yeah, you've got this, which turns it from, it flips it between a bipolar modulation and a unipolar one. You've got this metronome icon, which is, as you can probably guess, the beat sync. Then you've got this, which I actually don't know what this does. And then you've got your preset selector, and then you've got this, which is a preset selector and a context menu, and then you've got the delete button, which, if you don't know what the delete button does, I'm sorry. All right, so that's your modulators. You've also got macros, which are exactly what they sound like. It's a macro. It's automatable, which is insane because this is modular. Kilohertz, get on it. Unlimited macros, please. Actually, I don't know how many modulators you're allowed to have, but it's probably a lot. The sequencer, you've got a random, I already went over that, spread, which lets you it's a stereoizer basically, but like for specific modulations. You can also increase the stereo width of the random thing, so it does the left-right channel independently, which is cool. And there's the XY pad, which is an XY pad for, I guess, if you have a MIDI controller that has an XY pad on it, it just lets you, you can like map the CCs or whatever. But yeah, so that's your modulators. It's very intuitive. You see it, you know how to use it. That's it. It doesn't have a note modulator, like for, one thing that I don't like is that it doesn't really have tooltips, which would just be nice to have. But yeah, so the phaser filter, it's a phaser filter. I don't know the mechanics of how it works, I'm gonna be honest, but it's like harmonically related peak or notch filters. You got flangers, which is the same thing, just more extreme, and comb, same thing. Then there's this is a gain. If you go to the special line, there's a gain, a tilt, and expander. I think I said that already, but it also has undo buttons. Undo buttons are useful. So, yeah. Alright, so this is kind of where the main, like, pluckiness comes from. Then I've got another phaser filter over here, which has the frequency offset slightly, and it has a random on the feedback amount, and it's also got an inverted mix, which is just cool. It also repeats a different number of times, so this is the number of phaser poles. If you have a multipolar phaser, like the Ableton stock one, it's that setting. So this one has 5 poles, whereas this one has 8. Then you've got these two. This is a notch flanger filter. So it's just, I don't 100% know how these work either. Like I said, I don't know the technical things. This is a very extreme filter, but that's why there's like so much gain reduction. And then this is just a bandpass resonant filter, resonant comb filter, I guess. And so let's actually make this in steps. This one almost just sounds like the default, just, you know, with like these weird plucky things. Then I had this, and it like just mangles it. And then I've got the second flanger filter. So these two are basically where the main like timbre of the sound comes from. And then you've got, and with these, the resonance, the actual resonance, not the width, is where the what do you call it? Wow, brain break. It's where the feedback comes from, and then the feedback on this is just feedback. So if I turn this on, yeah, so it's extremely straightforward. And then, yeah, it's just it's a very straightforward, very intuitive workflow for making really complex sounds out of not very much. Yeah, this is a very similar thing. Just I was messing around with the filters basically. I've got this gain that pulls the gain down. I've got some phaser stuff. Yeah. You can do some really crazy stuff with it, or you can just use it as an EQ. But yeah, so in summary, Shade is probably my favorite VST plugin that I have, just as a whole. It's immensely powerful, and it's just powerful. I don't know what else to say about it. You can do insane, ridiculous, just like, I mean, there's a 2-week free trial. There's going to be a link in the description. Try it out. Just try it out, man. It's so good. I don't know what else to say. This is my favorite plugin, just as a whole. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and all that crap. You know it. More content soon, I guess.